to welcome everybody. Though this is the last session of today, we have still some strong audience, and maybe a little bit more as you. So now we are at the 10th Economy and Logistics Summit of FIATA for global and Turkish logistics topic. And this afternoon, in our panel, we will have in-depth discussions with, I assume, I believe, a lot of aspiration, a lot of inspirations related to global trends that impact to the logistics worldwide, with all the opportunities and all the difficulties and threats it makes for the world, and obviously for Turkiye as well. And my name is Turhan Özen. I have like now 35 years of experience in logistics. This is all my business life. The lucky thing about this 35 years, I've been in the service receiving part. I've been in the first party for 15 years, 12 years almost, 12, 13 years, for a big automotive manufacturer in Turkey and distributor, making logistics, so receiving the logistics service from a first party perspective. Then I had chance to join Turkiye and forwarding companies, very global ones, in Turkey and then in regional and global roles. So I was a 3PL, 4PL and freight forwarder from a global logistics and forwarding perspective. And finally, last 8 years, I was the head of a global air cargo carrier. So I was in the second party. So I always say I've been in first party of logistics, 3PL, 4PL, second PL, including the forwarding. So it took 35 years to have a 360 degrees of experience in such a large and such a challenging industry. And now I'm very happy to introduce our panelists to you, all three of them, because they also represent, like myself, even more than myself, a very long and very delicate experiences in logistics and forwarding industry worldwide, so that will make our discussions, our conversations, I believe, very interesting and very helpful for all of you. So our first panelist guest is Ivan Petrov. Welcome, Ivan. Ivan was the immediate post-president of FIATA. So FIATA, we all know what it stands for. It is the International Federation of Freight Forwarders Association. It is also very popular in Turkiye since many years. I don't know anyone in logistics industry who doesn't heard of FIATA, at least from Turkish perspective, thanks to also Turgut Bey. So Ivan, actually he's a doctorate of economics studies, and he is the CEO of Trans Express Limited in Sofia, in Bulgaria. He's been also the former president of Bulgarian Freight Forwarding and Transport Association. But the most important thing is he has been almost 30 years of experience and a lot of contribution to FIATA before becoming the president, evidently, in advocacy part of it, in the training part of FIATA, in the digitalization efforts related. So basically, he has been having a significant contribution to today's and also to the future of FIATA. Then we have our second guest, Stephane. Welcome, Stephane Grevis. He is the General Secretary of FIATA. Am I correct?
Director General.
Okay, Director of General. Oh, yeah, that's important difference. General Director of FIATA. He has also been, I see him joining FIATA in January 2020, just before pandemic. A good time. You should have so many challenges in the right time of the first 2 months of your FIATA career. Yeah, a lot of experience, and beforehand, he's also a doctorate of education, business administration and management, and I see that he has been acting as a Secretary General of another Swiss Trading and Shipping Association, and beforehand Swiss China E-Commerce Association. So even before FIATA, you have been into several logistics-related and commercial-related associations as a general director and similar roles. And welcome, Stephane. And Jeppe Skivild'in, our third panelist. Jeppe is also having a Master of Finance and International Business degree and has been long with DFDS in several roles, in international ones as well, as the sales head of Baltic region in Lithuania. And before joining to the DFDS acquisition of Ekonomi recently, he was the CFO of DFDS, the logistics division. And now he's heading what we know as Ecologistics, now a part of DFDS acquisition or merger and acquisition integration, and he is now with his family a Turkish residual here and living the Turkish ecosystem, not only from logistics perspective but the whole life perspective, including the family. Welcome all three of you. So let's start with Ivan, and Ivan has a presentation for all of us, which I believe will make a strong base for our discussions and questions and answers next. Thank you, Ivan. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I know that it's afternoon, it's very complicated to speak last session, and my style is to look at watch the eyes, to follow the audience. Actually, I prepared a long presentation. I didn't know that we are too many, but I'll keep it short for 12 minutes. Also, in the morning, we were having a lot of discussions when the President Turgut opened conference here. I found out that we are speaking after 8 years together, working with him together at the presidency, FIATA presidency, very much similar, very much in common, which is very good because this is an institution and we need to follow the institution. So this is my agenda for today on the topic that was given to me, and I'll start now with the first slide, which is the general outlook. About this also Turgut was speaking in the morning. Actually, these were data that was not corrected data, for updated by IMF and the bank. So this is a bit lower expectation now from the economy, and due to all these geopolitical challenges that should be having in mind when we discuss. What is the answer given by FIATA on all this? Actually, first, we speak about multimodality. I was named as multimodal president, FIATA president. That was the main concept that was brought during presidency. This was the presidency before Turgut, 2 years before him. But he was an essential part. And we have speaking here about multimodal corridors, about hardware, like he said, and also processes inside of these corridors that make it easier to go and to make it faster flow, which is very important and which is exactly the place where organizations like FIATA can contribute a lot. What we are proud of is our multimodal negotiable FIATA bill of lading. We started with, on the basis of United Nations, who escaped the room now, but should come and speak tomorrow, on their standard, UNC-FACT, and we created from some very old running programs of digitalization within FIATA. We are now pioneering in the world of international trade as the most well-advanced document, and not only document, because it's not a document, it's a data standard of exchange. I think on this would be much more given by Stephane afterwards and also by Eric tomorrow. But this is how it looks like in reality in paperwork or PDF. But what I want to say with this slide is a new wording coming from Brussels fashion. You know that in Brussels, in the European Commission, there is usually special wordings that are giving political knowledge and meaning. This twin transition now. So going green and digital. We were very much green at the beginning of the in 20s. Now a bit less green because it was too much hard on the economy, but still staying green and digital. So they are hand in hand. And it helps to reduce risks. It's verifiable at any time. That is our document, and also certifies the validity of the document. All these will come with the FIATA bill of lading, which should be discussed a bit more by Stephane later on. What is new in these corridors? First of all, they give possibility in global trade and connectivity. They give you right and possibility to shift transport mode, especially when you have hurdles, when you have political challenges, like here in Russia-Ukraine war around us, and also another war around us. And also, there is need to impose some politics to facilitate trade, which is the work of the association like FIATA. It's not physical barriers, or how to good say in the morning, it's like software, which is very important. In this case, here we speak a lot about customs formalities, and customs formalities are very much involved in the process of data exchange, and we were having also very nice information in the morning session about this. Importance of new multimodal corridors. I know also last time in 2 years ago we were having clearly marketplace seminar held in Istanbul dedicated to middle corridor or Trans-Caspian corridor, which is like all corridors very political. Just a few years prior in China nobody was thinking about middle corridor due to the fact that you can imagine that China is a very centralized country and decisions should be taken from the very top. And meanwhile, they have taken such a decision, trilateral decision between Russia and Germany. So all corridors are northern corridors. We don't have any alternative actually. This is rather new, and it's provoked by the war, like reaction coming from Europe, but also taken a bit from China. I'm not quite sure whether it's taken so seriously still, because China plans it for many years ahead. But however, all these political challenges give us a chance to have a new, for our countries, because I think Bulgaria is very close to Turkey, so we are in the same region, we have the same interest. It's a big opportunity to take over. So the last sessions here were exactly about this corridor and how our bottlenecks and exact things that you know better than me, and how you can use the transit flow to make growth on your logistics product, which at the moment is, from perspective of this corridor, is rather low, because bottlenecks are very severe. Marmaris is very restricted, Third Bridge is, railroad is not ready. Also, congestions are everywhere. You have twice transshipment of the flow on the corridor in cars, and before that on the Kazakh border with China. So there are too many hurdles. Even I think from Turkish perspective it would be easier to go to Mersin or to other port to cross Vilnius to Trieste than to go to Bulgaria. But there is an interest to go to countries in Southeast Europe, because this is one opportunity of the corridor. So FIATA stands for developing all type of corridors. Another issue was technology and infrastructure. This is exactly like outdated infrastructure and limited intermodal connections. The guy from the previous session exclusively said that the intermodal transport now is the mostly developing transport in Europe. So based on conventional rail, there is no any growth, but based on intermodal solutions, there is a serious growth. So concentration should be there. The role of the freight forwarder or logistics company is exactly at the intermodal and multimodal terminals where we need to invest, and all should be, of course, rail connected. This is the main purpose of any terminal. We don't think that the terminal on the road is a modern terminal. There is no concept in this. Aging facilities and, of course, automation, AI, Internet of Things. Regulatory shifts. Regulations. Here we have a lot of regulations, but also in the morning sessions, they were mentioning about CO2 emissions and about coming with these some regulations in the world with restrictions for using trucks, for example, which are much more polluted transport than rail, which is the cleanest transport out of four. So to say that we prepare in FIATA, first of all, emission calculator. We prepare us in order to prove the big companies like your company would offer on the market in their commercial offers also the calculator on what is exactly emissions. It's like in your ticket, you need to know emissions. The big companies in Europe already started taking decisions on emission calculating, because they are prohibited by the state to pollute more, and they should take it into account and prove that they are socially responsible. Automation and digitalization. We know that this is a challenge for all of us. It's for the young people, but not only. It should be taken into account because this is a challenge. We have another challenge, cybersecurity risks. And the cybersecurity is a real issue because even big organizations like FIATA has been struggling this effect several times. So to say, every company can be opposed on this, and we need to take precautions. FIATA itself has published a special manual on that, and please, you can always find it in the library on the website to use this for your preparation for cybersecurity risks. Labor shortages, there were a lot of information about this during the session with IRU, but it's not only in truck drivers, but also in our companies. You know, we don't have enough companies. What is the answer of FIATA? It's by educational training. We have a good standards. UTICAT is very active in these processes, and Alperen is very active. So giving support to the young people on education, vocational training would be also granting them a big support for future, for selecting our profession as a profession for knowledge. And customers' expectations is a challenge. It's transparency, speed, reliabilities, timely deliveries, real-time tracking and proactive communication, sustainable shipping options, and environmentally friendly packaging, cost-effective logistic solutions. That's all, even less than 12 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thanks a lot. I think we got a very comprehensive presentation in a short time related to all the angles, all the different angles, all these 360 degrees of changes and challenges related to today's and the future of logistics industry. Especially the focus and your support into the new multinational corridors, including the middle corridor, which is very, very important for Turkey. Your efforts to make it more efficient and more effective at the end of the day, I believe it's worth underlining for all of our audience here. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, the next, indeed, my question for Stephane, related to, as you are, I believe, in the execution and implementation part of the presentation topics, many of them, I would just like to ask you about this, how Ivan called twin transition, having going green and going digital at the same time. And as far as I understand from the presentation, at the heart of this initiative lies the bill of lading, EFDL, and that's an important step forward for the whole industry, it looks like. So, what is that in physical terms, in concrete terms, how it is going, and what are the maybe challenges and also still more opportunities to implement further?
So thank you very much, Turhan, for the question. Oops. And yeah, I think we launched the electronic version of the FIATA bill of lading 2 years ago. Now it's distributed in over 35 territories around the world. We are also having a project of implementation on the middle corridor, so that's also it will be also available there for the operators, the freight forwarders. It's a document that was created in 1968, so the paper version, for answering the issue of harmonization. And so, in reality today, in our digital world, we have exactly the same issue. We have a lot of fragmentation, a lot of projects of digitalization, but one of the big problems is the communication between the different tools. So when FIATA started to look at the digitalization of this document, that is absolutely key because it's the only standard for house bill of lading, for house data from freight forwarders, multimodal, that can be used for all the different modes of transport. The idea was not to create another platform, because there is enough platforms around the world used by our members, but it's really to bring first security, safety and security to the document, using and implementing blockchain, to also ensuring and reinforcing the standard itself. That is a standard recognized by ICC, recognized by UNCTAD. It's a title of goods that can be used for financing purposes as a collateral for getting trade finance. So it's a document that is used for the shippers for their financing. And also to ensuring that this document will be able, and the data, because we talk about digitization, so there is no really documents, we talk about exchange of data, that this data will be exchangeable with all the actors. So today, it's distributed across over 50 platforms, softwares, main transport managing system. We are responsible for the compliance, so ensuring, as it's a title of goods, coming with a lot of conditions of usage linked to the terms of condition. We verify at FIATA the compliance of the user and the proper use of the BL, and then we allow that these data are stored linked to a digital identity that we provide to all our members using it, that we store this data and we provide a set of data that can be exchanged with other actors, and that is securized and cannot be changed or modified without the consent of the owner, because it's also stored on a blockchain. I think the biggest challenge we have today is really linked to the market adoption and the change management. Because moving from paper to digital implies that you adapt your processes, you adapt the way you are working, and we noticed all the actors, and it's not only FIATA with the FIATA Digital BL, but it's also the Digital Container Shipping Association with Master Digital Bill of Lading. It's also our partners in ICC, SWIFT, the bank. All of us, we noticed that today we have provided the market with the tools for being digital and exchanging data. All of us, we are using languages that are interoperable. So if we look at interoperability today, we have all using the UN reference data, multimodal data model. So in principle, there is no difficulty for us to exchange data. We did also a lot of work with ICC for what we call the KTDDE, which is the Key Trade Documents and Data Elements framework that aligns all electronic documents to ensure consistency across the documents. So that's really a reference for everyone that is digitalizing document, because it allows that we all use the same languages, the same definition and way to build the data so that we can exchange them. So I think from the interoperability aspects, today the market has everything it needs to be able that we are interoperable. Then, when you look at the market, generally the next step is to challenge a little bit the legal certainty. So here again, we did a lot of work within FIATA and also with our partners, for example ICC, the International Chamber of Commerce, on MLETR. We have MLETR, is the model law on electronic transferable record, that provide a legal framework for exchanging electronic documents. So these recognized electronic documents and as an equivalent to paper. So again here, this is in process of being ratified by the different countries. The countries that have adopted now and implemented MLETR, they can perfectly recognize an electronic document as the same as a paper document. We are also working at FIATA with UNCITRAL, which is the legal committee inside the UN, for developing a new document that is a negotiable multimodal cargo document that is built on MLETR and that reinforces the usage of electronic documents as a title of goods and as a negotiable document. This convention will be finalized this year. It's really based on the FIATA multimodal BL, because in reality our document is the only existing multimodal cargo document that is a title of goods that can be used with different mode of transport. So here again, from a legal perspective, everything exists to have this exchange and digital supply chain. The biggest issue that stays is people, and it's market adoption. So I think today what we see is that we have members, they never went through paper document, they immediately started with electronic bill of lading, and they just work with electronic bill of lading. They don't have issue, they never touch paper, they never use paper BL. But that's not the majority, because everyone that has been used and constructed a process around paper, they have a lot of difficulty to move away from the paper to use and embrace electronic bill of lading. And it's what we see is that to overcome this, there are a few areas and action we can do. First one is training and education. I think at the end it comes to people, and people need to be able to trust in electronic documents and new electronic processes. They also need to get used to these new processes and the way it works. And I think that's probably one area where we will need a little bit more time to train and to have also the next generation entering this industry that will be more used with the usage of electronic documents. The other aspect is collaboration. Our industry is very fragmented, and everyone, as I said before, we're thinking digitalization in their own area. Air freight, FIATA, they are doing then one record, they don't consult everyone. If you take DCSA, the Digital Container Shipping Association, the 10 biggest shipping lines, for very long they were not consulting anyone because they represent all the maritime carriers, so no need to look at the others. So it's very complicated because when we talk about digitalization, we talk about interoperability and interconnectedness. And it's very important that we bring the actors together to work on these new processes and the exchange of information between us. And that's where FIATA, already in 2021, we founded the FIT alliances with DCSA, with BIMCO, with ICC and SWIFT, the banks, in order to work on this interoperability between us. But also we work on interconnectedness, because interoperability is one thing, interconnecting the system is another one. We mentioned a lot customs and WCO. It's a lot of work we have done in the last few years with the WCO in order to ensure that we are interoperable with them, that we can interconnect the data of the BL with the system and the data reference model of the WCO, so that in the future we will be able to exchange the data of the house BL directly with the customs. And this work is something that is quite time consuming. We needed 2 years with the WCO to finalize the technical integration. And today we will be able, and we have already some jurisdiction, like for example United Arab Emirates, that for a totally different purpose, which is preloading cargo advance information, so for safety and security, will accept automatically the data of the electronic FIATA BL in their systems in order to proceed quicker to this safety check. And what we noticed, I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier, when we are working on these pilots and also doing some project with other partners, we did one with involving ICC, the banks, and it was a transaction for a customer, a real transaction between Kazakhstan and China, a delivery of goods using an electronic FIATA BL financed by Bank of China in 24 hours. This is something that you cannot achieve with paper, because the time the paper arrives, it's much more than 24 hours. So what we noticed, and that was probably one of the biggest outcome, and we noticed it for a lot of transactions that happens in the Caspian area and the Central Asia region, is that you have generally very short transports, and you cannot organize a trade financing with banks because it would take too much time to get to the documents. With the electronic FIATA BL, you manage to instantly get access to the data, because as soon as it is created and entered by the freight forwarder, it's accessible and can be exchanged with the customs, with the banks for the financing purposes, for the custom, for the pre-clearing of the goods. So in reality, you really manage to speed up and drastically change the speed of your freight transport. So I think all these advantages will come, but it will take a little bit time to people to get more familiar with digital environment and with all this new approach of digitalized logistics.
Thank you. Stephane. Well, it looks like a very important initiative, this FIATA's EBA, though challenges, which is apparent to many of us, I believe, related to habits, sometimes related to different parts of the freight forwarding world acting their own, like shippers, ocean shippers in a different way, or IATA for airlines and aviation is different. I just would like to ask a very short question. I mean, from a rough description, what is the coverage for after now 2 years? What is the percentages that this bill of lading are used by FIATA members to the general? So is it still small numbers or double-digit numbers? How would you describe it?
So it's a good question. In fact, it remains very limited. First, because we need first to have the association that is unlocking the access, because for the compliance purposes we rely on our national association to check certain criteria of the user of the bill. So as I said, we have today about 30 territories where our association have embarked in it and is providing us this support for the compliance. So it limits a little bit the scope. Then what we see is that effectively this difficulty for people to move from one to the other is really keeping, for the time being, if you take a distribution of innovation, it's always an exponential curve. I think we're still, for the time being, in this flat area of the curve. What is interesting is to see that first, you have companies, they just use electronic BLs. They do hundreds of BLs, only electronic, and they don't have any problem. But I agree with you, they remain quite isolated, and in the same country you can have some using only the electronic BLs, and all the other will tell you, I know, but I cannot, legally it's not recognized, or the custom doesn't accept it, which in reality, it's not the case, but the people are on this still very conservative perception that they cannot, because they are not familiar, they don't understand also the usage of this document, and that's also something we noticed. Even with the paper version, we struggle sometimes with our member understanding the condition and the usage of this document. So that's why I think it's really about training and education, bringing the people to understand, to be familiar with the usage and understand how they can use it. So I would say it remains for the time being low, but with a good potential. And also what we notice is that when a country is validating MLTR, so now there is about 15 countries that have gone through the system and have ratified the MLTR convention, suddenly you have a big boost, because then the government is doing some pressure on the companies to move to digital document. Right now, I think we have this with Japan. Japan is just finalizing the ratification of MLTR, and we see that suddenly Japanese companies are interested to use it, are pushing for using it because they hear about it. They now have this confidence through the ratification of the convention and the push of the government. So it's really, I think, a very normal development of adoption that it goes slowly, and when the conditions are all aligned and the people understand how to use it, then they really move them from the paper to the digital.
Thank you very much for the clarification. I think it's very comprehensive to understand how it is running and how in the near future you are. So I'm coming for my third question to Jeppe. DFDS is already the world's one of the largest transportation and logistics service provider worldwide, and now also in Turkiye. The first investment I think was back like 10 or maybe more than 10 years. Yeah, 8.
5 years, I believe. 5 years you and Ro became DFDS.
Yeah, around that. And now with the second investment, acquisition of Ekol, you are also became one of the key players in Turkish logistics market, and Turkish logistics industry integrating to Europe logistics infrastructure. So, being the head of this organization in Turkey, how would you evaluate the main global dynamics impacting the logistics industry from both opportunity perspective, but also from challenges and threats perspective?
Thank you. Let's say we are navigating a complex environment at the moment, but I always believe that there are opportunities where we are right now. I think we at DFDS observe a few global dynamics. I can also touch upon it briefly. I think the first one is the trade flows. We consider ourselves a pan-European company, which also means that we are seeing more companies shifting to what we refer to as nearshoring. We also see majority of our investments now here in Turkey. We also see North Africa as one of the markets that will grow in the near future. Some companies are going towards nearshoring with reducing risk. Other is to reduce the supply chain of it, but we definitely see opportunities with Turkey and North Africa being sort of the primary countries. You can say our ferry and logistics network is built, and that's also why this acquisition was a key part of coming into DFDS, to build the bridge between this region and the bridge into Europe. We are expanding our intermodal setup, especially the multimodal. We keep expanding on. We believe very much Turkey, Italy, France will become key markets together with Central Europe. We see that as a vital part to be resilient in these, let's call it, complex times at the moment. There are also geopolitical situations that are forcing us to change way. I think we've seen the Russia-Ukraine war. We recently saw the Iran-Israel war going in, making oil prices spike, which everyone in logistics knows that comes with increased cost of operating. It comes with more supply chain risk, as we see it. And as everyday logistics comes also with higher insurance premiums, it's harder to operate, it's harder to be strong, and our customers are asking us more and more to be flexible in rerouting the cargo, having more than one option. So you cannot be too rigid in your setups in today's world. Digitalization, to complement also Stephane, there is transforming. I think it will come in so many different ways. I think we see data-driven forecasting coming, real-time tracking, and all of these are already in the loop, but actually connecting them. I learned from my own IT department that some of our systems, they are decomponentizing, actually meaning that we're splitting them up of the old ways they were put together in order so they can better connect with other systems. So we're going back, reprogramming our systems in order for them to connect, because we are fragmented even if we consider ourselves connected today. And lastly, sustainability is a key point. When we say it, and to quote our own CFO, it's in Europe it's becoming a license to operate. You started also talking about it first, and maybe it's not fully there. It came with a huge cost in the 20s, and even also coming around, but we expect this will come very, very fast with high forces, and that also means that we need to think strategically where do we put the money, how do we build resilience into that, how do we cater for intermodal train solutions, electric trucks. You know, is the infrastructure ready in the countries that we want to make the investment in? And I'm quite confident there are also a lot of things that happen here for Turkey. Former session around building up the rail network is exactly some of the things we will need to see. So very, very, very exciting times ahead of us, but also complexity at the moment. In terms of sort of DSDS as day to day, I think we see production relocations. If I should take it from the Turkish perspective, I met with our Egyptian partner we have down there, and over 200 different factories, especially in the textile, have relocated some of their productions to Egypt in the recent year. This is not good for Turkish trade, and it will have to move back again. It's putting pressure when North Africa is taking some of that. Of course, high inflation, labor costs, as we see today, is pressuring the market. That's probably also why we see some of these productions shifting. As we know, automotive textile has been a core industries in Turkish economy for a number of decades. We are in a market at the moment where it's tough, competition is very high, people are fighting over the same volumes, and that of course puts pressure on it. Combining that with fuel prices going up, you are in, you can say, a turmoil environment at the moment. I've experienced very qualified employees joining from Ekonomi to DFDS. Very, very pleased to work with the Turkish staff. Very qualified, very strong, proud people to work with. But what we can see, if I should look at my European colleagues, is that logistics is a sector that is difficult to attract new people into. It's working in the evenings, it's working in the weekends. It's not, unfortunately, what attracts the generation coming up. I haven't seen this in Turkey, which I believe is a strong point for Turkey, that there is resilience in the workforce, and there is a young generation to take from. I would say on the last part, and touching in on what Stephane said, the customs setup, the digitalization integration gaps, they are causing a hassle now. If something can be done to overcome them, to increase the speed, it will also help in the general economy. So very pleased to hear that there are lots of good ideas on the table, and hopefully we can also adapt some of those in our operations. That was a little bit on the global thing, but also what we see maybe as locally in Turkey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Both global and local perspective together. Thank you, Jeppe. So, yeah, please go ahead.
If I might, I just want to react on a few things. When you were mentioning sustainability, because we talk a lot about sustainability, in fact, digitalization is a very big driver of sustainability. And if you take just a study that was done by, it was McKinsey, I think, 2 years ago, on the digitalization of bill of lading, all of them, house and master bill of lading, they found out that you could expect 7.5 billion savings in documentation cost. You could increase the trade from 30 to 40 billion. You could save about 7 billion in inventory cost. And that would also save a lot of, I don't remember exactly the figures of trees that will be saved. I think something like 21,000 trees that will be saved. So through the efficiency that digitalization brings, we can already make huge progress in better operation, more efficient operation, and saving also, and being more sustainable for the industry. So that was one point I wanted to raise. The second one on the fragmentation, effectively, I think that's really today the biggest issue, is that we miss the connector between the different mode of transport and initiative existing. I think here freight forwarders have a great role to play, because they are naturally the one that overlook everything, and that's where we really worked hard in, we were not making so much noise on it, but to try to connect the different pieces. We work with projects, for example, with the International Harbour and Port Association for connecting the digital documentation of the freight forwarders with the community port systems. And here it's very sensitive because of safety security, cyber security we mentioned before. But through what has been developed by FIATA for the members, we could automatize certain information that exists in the port community system that are not accessible today to the freight forwarder to be transferred as information to the freight forwarders, which would give much more visibility on the shipment, increasing efficiency, reducing time in the ports and all the congestion that we see. So we are working on some work here using digitalization in increasing efficiency. We are doing the same with FIATA on one record, trying to find out how we will connect that with the rest of the industry. We are doing the same with ILO. Unfortunately, they left, but we had not later than yesterday another meeting on the ECMR and how the data that exist in ECMR covers also certain data that exist in the bill of lading, and how all these things is interconnected to really find more fluent processes. So I think that's effectively, I think we have this burden, but we are working, and FIATA is really here, probably the one organization that is trying to bring all of them together in order to develop this solution and ensure that we have a seamless functioning and processes. And the people, yes, I think working for an industry that will be more digitalized, probably also more efficient, and where your work will not be just to re-enter the same information in 10 different systems, single windows, or re-entering the data of the BL from the freight forwarders in the system of the maritime carrier and then in the customs, and then, so I think that will also change the perception of our industry. So I'm quite confident that with the move and the change, because it's the topic of the panel, the change of our industry, we will also attract new people to our industry, new generation that are looking for this complexity that it brings, because it's complex. It's today really breaking down these silos between the different mode of transport, and really looking at the optimization of the supply chain. And that, I think, is much more exciting for the new generation than just entering and passing the same data in 20 different systems.
Very, very interesting. So as the digitalization of such complex logistics and supply chains increases, this will also impact to attract the young talents as a challenge itself, just to make their stand in such a complex digital setup. Yeah, great, great. I have a brief question to Ivan related to your presentation. Your focus to modularity, intermodality, multimodality is very, I believe, very key, by the way, very impressive and key. So, middle corridor, as you will know and imagine, is very much of our agenda recently, as from a Turkish logistics perspective. In briefly, what would be your suggestions, remarks and suggestions, maybe not for the authorities, but for the players of the industry to use and how to use about the middle corridor, based on your experience into development of this corridor? Would you have any recommendation or any brief inputs to make the minds of our audience more clear about how it is going on? And
I told you it's a great chance for the countries in the region, especially Turkey. Namely, why? Because this corridor was absolutely out of any scope. And just all of a sudden it happened. So no prepared infrastructure at all. And I don't speak about Turkey itself, but about the whole route, about the way that you should cross a sea, even two seas, Caspian and Black Sea in a certain modes. And also you cross smaller countries. Kazakhstan, it's much easier to cross because they are already very capable in doing transit operations. They're very much in favor of it. But speaking about Azerbaijan and Georgia is difficult. And everybody tries to get on board as high a cost as they can achieve. However, this corridor is at least 30% more expensive compared to northern corridors. So no matter how much you politically would be oriented and to love to avoid Russia, you cannot avoid it just on economical way. So that means that all measures should be taken to lower down the prices, to increase the efficiency. So these are well-connected issues. From perspective of a straightforward logistics company, big companies like Eco, DFDS, building up the proper intermodal, multimodal platforms is very important. This is what is a must now, because without infrastructure from our side, it's also not possible to get on board. Because finally, just being intermediary in operations is nice. We are very clever. We are the most clever part of the logistic chain. But in the modern world, it's finally not enough. You need to have some tools. You have to participate in the processes. We can hardly be carriers, but we can easier go to terminal coverage. And terminals are never enough. They always are lacking. So there is always potential for them. And operations, of course. All operations are important. Infrastructure, especially from the European side of Turkey to Bulgaria, is bad. And not only because there is limited lines, just one crossing, railway crossing is the biggest in Europe for trucking, but we need much more crossings for rail. And it's not possible to wait for 3 days around like this around the border to cross it. So to say, a lot of improvement also in software, in this dialogue between operators and TCDD mostly in this case is needed. So TCD is a bit old-fashioned because it's too big. It's incumbent railway. So to say it's the same in the old European countries. The incumbent railways are less efficient. So they all went into bankruptcy, finally. Without subsidy, they cannot work. So to say, this is what we need to do. And finally, we need to know, the Errol was speaking about how they go to China with participation in TCD, and it's very important. Chinese are very much important for this because they subsidize all the traffic to Europe by rail. So if you are not in this subsidy, you're totally out. Because however, you're 30% higher rate. So there is a big gap. Still, this big gap should be covered. Turkey cannot be comparable to Poland, where they go with much less. So you are totally different. So you have a big advantage in this, but this advantage should be utilized, should be got for a prosperity for your business. Otherwise, it's not possible to be developed. And finally, customs. Customs in Turkey is very, very low operations. Very low. I would never prefer, as Bulgarian forwarder, to come to Istanbul for a transition point. And you wanted the morning session to become very important transit point. You cannot.
Indeed.
Just being a big airport is not enough. We are afraid that coming here, we can stick our cargo, we cannot move. So this is air freight usually connected. So you need to have totally different connections and procedures. And finally, people in Europe forgot, especially Western Europe, they don't remember at all. They have generations that don't know what customs means. So to say, customs is totally inapplicable tool to control things. And being in this case, like IRU say, they have a tool, TIR, also electronic TIR, to TIR, so to implement such vision. FIATA from our side is also working very much with WCO, the World Customs Organizations. We need to convince people on this corridor, especially customs, to take it over. They are very old-fashioned, very much controlling. There is no need what they receive that we don't use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great remarks, Ivan. Thank you very much. Okay, my last question is a question to Jeppe. As you listed in the first round the important, significant trends, both globally impacting, also impacting Turkey, for the industry from different angles. And now, considering the DFDS, your previous role in international organization, now your role in Turkey, how DFDS now stands to tap on the opportunities of these changes and also overtake the challenges and maybe threats, so that how DFDS respond and how it position itself to these changes in the short and long term.
Yes, I think from DFDS we are, I wouldn't say we're adapting, but I think we are reacting to the changes. It's also a proactive part of our strategy for some of the challenges we discussed here in the panel. I mean, we believe very strong in network resilience, so we are also, maybe compared to others, more invested in infrastructure, meaning we own the ships, we have our own seamen, we have terminals, we own the trucks, the trailers, the cross docks, and so forth, in order to bring a strong hub, but also to be ready for this nearshoring, which we believe is one of the sort of main trends that will happen, and to bring Turkish producers into the European consumers. We of course are met with different disruptions, volatility geopolitically at the moment. But if you look at our investments in electric trucks, especially in Europe, I would personally consider us being one of the biggest when it comes to that. We have over 140 electric trucks running in Europe, and I also hope we will have some of those running here in Turkey in the near future. Actually, we will do a couple of demos with a couple of our partners in a couple of months. So hopefully that would also be prosperous going forward. We have done deals with some of the companies. Luckily, some of the bigger international companies still has this high on the agenda. And of course, electric truck is one way. It's a very high investment way of getting your carbon footprint down. But HVO actually compensates almost 92% of your carbon footprint. So we have solutions that we are doing today. So even on the short term, we are going this direction. So we believe this needs to be invested, even in tough times and tough markets as it is right now. Investments are still being put into this in order to support what we refer to as a low-emission transportation in the future. And it's a key part of the strategy, and as we say, it's a license to operate for the future. I believe one thing we continue also to invest in, and it's also touched upon here, is digitalization, customer visibility, forecasting, but also compliance. That is also an area that in this sector brings complexity into it. You need to be socially responsible in what you're also doing and documenting that. The demand from the customers has not gone down in the last couple of years at the moment. So I think we see a period of challenges, but I also believe we're ready at the moment where we are. There will be a next generation of logistics leaders. Hopefully they will tap into what the two of you discussed, the digitalization will attract new talent, different minds, and maybe some of those that are industry for decades at the moment, because it will shift in the future. So I'm not entirely sure how the future of logistics looks in 5 and 10 years, but I know it's different from where we are to today. So I believe we are ready to move forward, and we do that very much in place with our partners and our customers, of course.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Stephane, I think we had a lot of detail with your part of the questions, but if you have few last comments or inputs you would like to have to the audience before we finish?
So yeah, I think I loved what was said by both of them, and I wanted to come back to something of Ivan about customs, and effectively customs play a pivotal role in the resilience and seamless transport across corridors. So I think we need to have harmonized, predictable, coordinated border passing, and that's a lot of the work we are doing with because we are a representative permanent observer at WCO. We are part of the PSCG. We work on the promotion of the EU programs, authorized economic operators. We are trying to reinforce this status in order to make the benefits more evident for the companies, also to increase the access for the industry, for all the actors, not only a few of them. So that's one part of the thing. There is also all the mutual recognition agreement for EU that is very important when we work on corridors, because it's important that if you are an EU in Turkey, this is recognized by the other country that you are crossing with your freight. So that's also an area. So we see that in all the regulatory framework, there is also today a lot of work to adapt the regulatory framework to this new supply chain and this evolution. And in sustainability, I think here we see also a lot of inconsistency. We were participating in a group, it's first mover companies from the World Economic Forum. On the move, it's big companies that are among the first mover for sustainability. And when you look a little bit closer at regulation, there is some risk today, for example, with some new regulation in EU, that you will end up, because of the lack of consultation between different regulations, to double counting on carbon emission, which would be really quite problematic. But also, for example, and I just saw that when you were explaining your plan, is that we need to provide the companies and the private sectors a sufficient safety or guarantees on the timeline to invest and have a return on investment. Because what we see also in some of the projects that are discussed now in the EU is that they are not given sufficient time for the private sector to invest in sustainable infrastructure and to get enough return. And if you prevent them, the private sector, to have this return, they will not be able to invest in more sustainable logistics, and then you will not achieve the results. So there is a very critical situation right now at the regulatory level to ensure that the regulations are supporting the efforts of the industry to decarbonize and to invest in decarbonization, but also to have harmonization across different regions of the world. Effectively, we have a certain deglobalization, we have protectionism going around in the world, but this is very dangerous for the harmonization of the logistics, and particularly because logistics is global, it's beyond borders. So we really need to also keep that in mind and work together between the operators and the industry representative to ensure that this is brought in the right framework.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stephane. So basically, this is the last panel of today, and the traffic is rushing outside, I see. But still, if you have any from audience for any question, let's see to receive maybe one. I do not see any questions. Okay, so I would like to thank, because what we discussed so far was so comprehensive that I believe it was very valuable for all the participants. Yeah. Indeed. I would like to thank you very much. Yeah?